Congressman and presidential candidate Ron Paul is here at ATV Special Broadcast. Dr. Paul, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome. Delighted to be here.
We're delighted to have you here. So this year you've been on a college tour, traveling around to different campuses and speaking out. How has the experience been so far?
Well, it's been great. You know, I did a lot in the presidential campaign. I was very encouraged and very excited about how young people receive the freedom message and the things I've been talking about, and it's continued. So I'm very pleased with it, and I talk a lot about the problems the country faces and what young people have to realize, because things are so different today than it was, say, when I was getting out of college. So no, I've had some good receptions. I really enjoy what I do.
Dr. Paul, you started your career as a medical doctor. What made you decide to step out of that world and enter the world of politics?
You know, I never made that decision. I never thought of myself as getting into politics. I always thought of myself as a doctor. And when I first ran for Congress, the last thing in my mind that I ever thought would happen is I'd get elected, you know, because I was offering something different and it wasn't conventional.
And you're a strong supporter of libertarian views, and you think that if more people knew what liberty really means, that more people would actually adopt these views. So can you kind of just describe what liberty actually means?
Almost all Americans believe in some part of liberty, you know, and not too many people say, well, the first thing we need to do is get rid of the Constitution. Now, most people at least pay lip service to it, even though they don't do a very good job on following it. The Constitution is very libertarian. It's written not to run people's lives. It's not designed or written so that we police the world, and it's not designed to you know, have central economic planning in a socialist state.
You said you'd like to see an end to big government and things like Keynesian economics and the Federal Reserve. Would you actually have evidence to suggest that those, if we done away with all those, would the country actually improve? Is there evidence to suggest that?
One thing for sure, if we continue to do what we're doing, your age group's going to have a much bigger burden to bear, because it's based on flawed economic thinking. And we've been using this economic interventionism and Keynesianism really since the Depression. So it's getting to be a long time, and the failure is all around us. That's why there's a stalemate in Congress. That's why deficits are exploding, and the worse it gets, the more the money they want to spend and the more regulations they want to write, and it's not happening. Not helping. We're seeing the failure of the system, the end point of economic planning and the end point of too much debt, but an end point to this attack on our civil liberties. It's a total erosion of our civil liberties. If we don't speak up, we'll not have much left. And at the same sense, the foreign policy, the people around the world are getting pretty annoyed with us, you know, invading their countries and telling them what to do and running their elections and all these problems, using drone missiles, and our reputation, and now that they know that the NSA spies on all foreign leaders, friends and foes. So our credibility is way down, and I think it's very critical at this point.
Well, you just touched on about like how we spy on other enemies, and also like our own Americans here, we get spied on a daily basis. Right. But at this point, with the war on terrorism, like, did we dig ourselves into too deep of a hole where we have to spy on people? Because these terrorists, they're still plotting against us. There's people that are really angry at us all around the world, so we have to be vigilant. Yeah,
I think so, but I think just following the rules would help. The founders didn't say you were never allowed to you know, search records and do things, but you have to have a warrant.
When you entered politics, you said you didn't have high expectations that people would actually listen to you and what you had to say in your views. Are you surprised by how many people are adopting libertarian views, especially among young people in colleges?
I'm pleasantly surprised and excited about it, but it happened within the last 5 years. Although it coincided with my presidential campaigns, that wasn't the reason it happened. It happened because the groundwork's been laid. The intellectual groups have been teaching Austrian economics outside of the university. So there's a lot of people who are aware of it, but it's the failure of the system. It's the spreading of this libertarian message through the internet. It's the failure of our foreign policy that is calling attention to it. So young people now are very much aware of this and think they have to, you know, do something about it.
And a new project you also started is the Ron Paul channel. Can you describe what that is and what your intention was for creating it?
It's an internet channel. I get to editorialize when I feel like it, and I get to do my interviews. I've had a lot of young people that I've interviewed, and I'm really excited about it. It's still ongoing. You know, we really haven't started our first program in August, so it's new, but it's going real well, and it's a lot of fun.
You spent many years in Congress. For students that want to enter politics, can you offer some advice?
Go cautiously. Don't be overly eager. It should be secondary to one's goal. It was very secondary to what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to do medicine, but I also wanted to talk on policy, and I used it as a vehicle. But if a young person is getting out of school and says, you know what I want? I want to be a congressperson. I mean, then they want me to tell them how to raise money and how to organize and how to win election. Well, that's all fluff. I think you have to decide what you want to do, what you believe in, and if you just want to be a congressman, you might just say, well, I have to go and perpetuate the status quo, and I have to go to the district and find out what kind of money they want, and I have to know how to vote, support certain positions so I can get on the right committees and all. And I think you have to decide what you believe in. And then if a political career offers itself, I think it's a lot of luck. I think the only reason I ended up in Congress, it was sort of a fluke, and I ended up there and was hesitant about it and left, but finally went back in again. But if somebody has something that they believe in, you don't have to know exactly where you're going to go with it, because if you believe in freedom, understand the message, and you can deliver the message, somebody's going to come along, or there'll be some opportunity for that individual, either doing TV, writing books, all kinds of things, but it might be supporting other candidates, working in a think tank, or running for office.
Dr. Paul, thank you again for being here. Such a pleasure.
Nice to be here.